I thought I would make a little video on this process as we go through, because I've not seen another video demonstrated like I'm going to demonstrate here. So what we've got here is we've got our little kid-sized lemonade stand, and we need this, this all folds up flat, and what we're doing here is we're making some brackets that is ultimately going to go hold our little rooftop. But there's a couple of issues with these brackets, just the way they are. Of course, these are just 2x2s, and they're a little, they're just a little wobbly. So we've got a bolt going down here with a wing nut on the bottom, so we can easily remove these brackets because we need it to be able to all fold up. But we need to have these nice and sturdy, and I don't know if you can see in the video very well, but this support leans a little bit. Now this one here maybe even leans a little bit to the outside. So what we're going to do now, if we were to just put our rooftop on, our roof, just the way we would build our roof, it's going to lock those two in, so they would ultimately be straight up and down, but there still would be a fair bit of a wiggle side to side, even with our roof in place. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a support board on the back side of these two taller posts. We're just going to be using a fence picket, but we cannot have that board be a permanent thing, because this is all going to come apart and lay flat. And we could just use screws, obviously, but we don't want to do that because we want a tool-free assembly. So what we're going to be using to accomplish what we need to accomplish are these little guys. These are little Nutserts that will be put in. So we're going to come around to the back side here. So they're going to be put in just like this right here, right? So we'll put a little Nutsert in there, and that's going to hold the picket. And then we'll have a little 1/4 inch. Now these are 1/4 inch ones. So we'll have a little 1/4 inch knob, threaded knob, that we'll be able to tighten up. And so we could put it together and take it apart, okay? So that's kind of what we're doing here. So how do we go about doing this? Well, I know what I've done is I've taken the dimension down here, and we know that's 36 inches exactly. And so we know that these supports are kind of splayed out on both sides. So what we're going to do is take a piece of fence picket, cut it to 36 inches, and then we're going to use some clamps and clamp it in place, right? And then I'll show you the rest of the process. But the first thing we got to do is cut a picket that is 36 inches long, and then we're going to clamp it into place. And then we'll show you exactly what we're going to do with these Nutserts. Okay, now I ordered them on Amazon, and they come with a little Allen wrench to insert them. And one thing that it doesn't tell us what diameter. See, we've got to actually drill a hole. We don't know what diameter hole we have to drill. But we'll talk about that kind of in our next step. So let me get my picket in place. That's going to ultimately hold these two together and give us a real nice rigid setup. So let me get that done, and then I'll come back to you and we'll move on here. I kind of forgot that I already had this one set up, but you can see how this was like an early prototype, but you can see how that back support is. Now this is a little different setup. This T-nut, we did not like those because they go on the back side. So they essentially do the same thing as that Nutsert's going to do, but they would be visible. So that's why we went with the Nutsert option. So you can see that other T-nut over here. But that board definitely helps with the side to side for this roof assembly. Most of the wiggle now comes from the legs themselves. You know, the weight on the legs and stuff. It does wiggle a little bit, but the top with that wiggle is more on the bottom. Now I do not have these. I don't think there's any wing nut or anything on the bottom side of these. But so at any rate, that's kind of what the setup is going to be that we're trying to make here. Okay, so now if we go back over to this one, we can see now that this is our support board. So you can see what I did. I came down 2 inches. I just took my little Swanson carpenter square here, right, and just came down to, made a mark at 2 inches right there, boom, on both sides. And then I've clamped it here, so I made a line, so I've got it clamped so I can drill top and bottom here. Okay, now I probably will use my little Craig multi-mark and make me a line so that the distance is equal, just because I'm picky that way. All right, now, so we've got our Nutsert. Now, one thing that I was surprised, I've not used these previously. So one thing that I was a little bit surprised about was the fact that whatever size the thread is. Now, I don't have a set of calipers. But if I were to take a measurement with a set of digital calipers of the thread from side to side here, okay, that's how big a drill bit I would use, whatever the threads actually are. What my initial thought was is that I would use a drill bit slightly smaller than the threads. And what I found out was I tried that, and I really could not get this to work. I could not get this to screw in. So that's just, you know, a little side note. Now, the Nutsert is a 1/4 inch Nutsert. Okay, so the bolt that's going in here is 1/4 of an inch. So this is the drill bit that we went with. Let's see if I can show you this, what I'm talking about here. So this is the drill bit we went with, but I don't know if you can see this very well. I'll try to show you, but it is roughly the exact same width as the threads, as close as I could get to it. Okay, so like I said, I don't know if you can really see that, but that's what I'm talking about. But when I'm drilling through this board right here, I don't necessarily need the big drill bit, or necessarily want the big drill bit, because then there'll be some slop in this piece from the bolt, because this is way oversized. This is like 4 or 5 drill bit sizes larger than a 1/4 inch bolt. This one is two sizes. So I think this one's like I don't know, just like a 1/16 bigger than a 1/4 inch. So we do want it a little bit bigger, because we want that bolt going in here through this piece easy, you know, to pull that bolt back out. It's going to be like a little, it's either going to have a wing nut on it, so we'll either use we might weld or solder a wing nut on top of a 1/4 inch bolt, or we'll see if we can get some little knobs. That would be ideal. Order some little quarter inch knobs. That would be preferred. But at any rate, so this is just me thinking out loud here. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark our board. We'll drill, okay, we'll drill this drill bit first through the wood and into this piece. Okay, we'll drill our holes. Then I'll take this piece off and then drill the bigger hole for the Nutsert. And then when we go to put our bolts in, everything will line up perfectly, okay? Because we drilled through this, but with that smaller bit, okay? Hopefully that makes some sense. So let me do that. Let me get some markings here. Let me drill some holes, and then I'll come back and show you exactly what we did. Okay, so let me just show you the old Craig multi-mark here. I set that to 3/4. And you literally just set it up here, mark to 3/4, both directions, and that's it. Pretty simple stuff. So we've got all of our holes marked. Now we're going to drill it out with that smaller drill bit. Then we'll take this down, drill it out with our bigger drill bit so we can put our Nutserts in. So I swapped out for our bigger drill bit for our Nutsert, and all I did was take my multi-mark, set it for 1 inch, and came in here and then put on a little flag. So when I hit my flag, I know that's 1 inch in. So we got to drill these holes out here, okay? So I know, well, these two up top here. Okay, so I know that's where the nutserts are going to go to line up to our board here, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and draw out the hole a little bit bigger and insert my nutserts, and we'll go from there. All right, so you can see now we've got our nutserts in place. And what I did is I just slightly, because this is soft pine, we slightly recessed them. So now they're nice and flush. And we just sanded it up, made everything nice and flush, okay? Now, one thing I will point out to you too, that those nutserts are perfect thickness for 5/8 fence pickets. So if you're building something that you want to hold together real well with a fence picket, a screw, a regular screw may certainly, or staples or whatever, aren't going to hold as well as these nutserts, okay? And a bolt. So that's just something to think about. You know, you don't have to use thick material to build some really sturdy things if you're using these nutserts, because those nutserts will give you lots of strength, okay? So now we're going to go ahead and put this board in place using those nutserts. So I wanted to show you what we wound up going with as far as the fasteners. We made our own fasteners. So we went with the JB Quick. So this stuff is supposed to set up in 6 minutes, and it more or less did. And it's supposed to cure in 4 to 6 hours. So I think this will work out okay. Now, what I'm probably going to do, being how I have them in here like this, I just drilled some holes in a piece of wood. And so what I did is I just put a little bit of JB Weld on the washer here. And what I'll do is I'm just going to shoot them real quick with a little bit of spray paint. And when you do that, they'll you know, take off all the little stragglers. You won't see that big gloop of JB Weld so well. But then this will give us our thumb screws, you know, as far as tightening. Now, I have not previously tested this, so I don't know. The JB Quick here, I threw away the packaging, but it has about 3,000 PSI strength, whereas the real JB Weld has nearly double that, okay? But the cure time on that was 24 hours, where this is just 4 to 6. So I went with this, and these don't have to be, you know, for what we're using, we don't have to really crank them down. Now I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit here so you can see. This one I put a little bit of gloop in that hole of the wing nut. If I was welding this together, I would fill that with welding. But I thought, well, I'll just try the JB Weld rather than break out the welder. It's not a big deal. I'll probably order some of those knobs I was talking about previously. I did not find those at my local Lowe's. So this will get the job done. So these are 1.5 inch bolts here, and they, like I said, they'll work just fine. But I am going to shoot them with a little bit of spray paint to make them look a little bit better before we actually go put that piece together. So you can definitely see that definitely makes it look a little better. Now I just used a cheapo matte black spray paint that I happen just to have sitting over there. I would definitely probably recommend, if you've got to go buy something, go ahead and get you a can of that appliance epoxy paint. It's quite a bit more durable, so that's what I would recommend. Or even they make a spray paint that's specifically for painting engines, like a high temperature spray paint. That would be more durable, because this will probably flake off after the first time I use it. But that's all I had, so I just shot them real quick, just to show you. Like I said, it's if you're looking at it really close, yes, you could still see that JB Weld, but not near as bad when everything's black. So, all right. You could maybe even use some of that Plastidip. I mean, they have all kinds of different coatings you could potentially use just to color them. And like I said, I'm not sure when we go to crank these down if that JB Weld's gonna hold. I mean, Maybe it will, maybe it won't. So I'll update you on that once I had a chance to give it a good little test. All right, there is our little finished lemonade stand, but I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of an update on the JB Quick. Now, on the back side here, we were talking about how we took these wing nuts and attached them with our JB Quick and also that washer onto a bolt. And I will tell you this, I was quite surprised that just after, first of all, it says it sets up in 6 minutes, and it really does. I did let it sit for like 10 minutes, but you could tell it was definitely set up enough where you could definitely use it. And I think I let it sit for maybe 30 minutes before I actually tried to put some torque and actually really tighten these down. So I'm pretty confident, and I was able to put quite a bit of pressure on these with no issues, as far as I didn't feel like it was going to break. So this is a pretty good solution, quick, easy, inexpensive solution to be able to put that support board on our lemonade stand. Now I will say I went with 1.5 inch bolts, and I wish I would have went with inch bolts because it's a lot of turning, and we're setting up for shows and things. We don't want to take forever and a day setting up, and like I said, so I'm confident these will probably hold up pretty well. You can put a lot of pressure on that and tighten it down really snugly. It says that this totally cures within 4 to 6 hours, and like I said, it's been a couple of days now, so that will definitely get the job done. And what that horizontal board does is it really tightens up. It makes all this makes these boards go straight up and down, and also takes away any sway that we had side to side. So it really makes that roof structure nice and solid. Okay, so I've got a little bit of work to do on the bottom of our top here, so I'm going to go do that, and that's it for this one. So I hope you learned a little bit more about how to utilize those Nutserts. I think I'll probably use them in a lot of different projects now where I hadn't been previously.